Gentlemen and ladies, how are you? It's been a certain kind of week this week. I find myself just doing a minor Reset Sniper recap of the goings on. I'm in the markets, I'll come to that. It's been a cranky week there. But let's just start with what's happened in the last 7 days. So, a handful of days ago, Alex Jones was removed from YouTube, but that was not all. It was Apple iTunes, it was Spotify, for putting his podcast on. It was a host of platforms in what very much appears to be coordinated move. Remember, we're supposed to have a non-monopoly or oligopoly. In other words, where one or a very small cabal of platforms don't cooperate and coordinate between each other. That's what we're supposed to have. Yet we have a grand sweeping of the decks where a particular character is removed from all major platforms and taken down. Some of the reasons being his position on Sandy Hook, which many might think has justification. Others, apparently one guy in the YouTube comments that I've seen, he said, oh, he said shoot Mullah, deserves to be taken down. I remember a ton of US politicians coming out and wanting Assange shot and assassinated. His main crime, Julian Assange, is very awkward, very truthful, undeniable facts being published that create major embarrassment for the dark state and its agenda against humanity. Wow, those guys still have a platform, and they're calling for the assassination. They hate having their technocratic oligopoly, corporatism, communism of the people that is expanding through the system identified and exposed. So the whole reason, if we're talking about Alex Jones' channel, is why did this all happen simultaneously if these companies are all run separately? Well, there's a little thing. If you think that little weirdly sipping water in hearing Zuckerberg is actually running the whole show, then I've got a lesson for you. You need to wise up. Facebook had its meeting with the Atlantic Committee, and let me just give you one name that is on the Atlantic Committee. You'll be able to fill in the rest as able stooges. Henry A. Kissinger. Henry A. Kissinger runs the Atlantic Committee, and you can take it assured that along with Henry A. Kissinger and all his other little foot soldiers of a similar cloth, had similar meetings with all those particular groups. And guess what? That's why it's synchronized. And then people say, but hang on, these are private companies, they can decide who they have as clients or whatever. Sorry. The minute you get real big, let me explain to you how business goes. You can have a small business and you can trundle along just fine, pay your taxes, have a few employees, have clients, keep clients, get rid of clients, do whatever you want. You become a medium-sized business, you start a payroll, you're starting to pay a reasonable amount of tax, just sprawling, you've got a big player in the town, you're a big employer, local politicians know who you are, etc., etc. When you have a US megacorp oligopoly, you get a tap on the shoulder as you're going, and it goes something like this. Hey, you're doing some really good, awesome business stuff. Remember, the mafia never got closed out in America. They just got hired. Hey, we think you need a couple of government minders to look after you, to make sure that, awkward things don't happen, like tax inquiries. Whenever you're a big corporation, there's always a paperclip somewhere that was misfiled as an expense when it should have been a capital expenditure, etc., etc. And we think there's people here that say you're getting a bit too big and we want to support you, and we need a couple of things from you. You know, your client base, you've got quite a big client base across America, and you're putting products. We might want to know who's this, and for cooperating, you're going to be allowed to grow in an unfettered manner, and shoot the moon. Otherwise, I'm afraid we're going to take you down. We're going to expose you for fraud, tax evasion, whatever the case may be. That little call event happens. In many of these corporations, in fact, that are going to be groundbreaking, real early on, the seed guy is not even the seed guy. I don't believe Zuckerberg did everything from a dorm in university from the very, very beginning. I think Facebook quite early on was helped viral by a lot of mechanisms of state. It's kind of like wanting to become the next Tom Cruise in Hollywood. You got to go sit on that couch and don't think because you're a man you're going to be safe. You got to be somebody's bitch, and you got to do somebody's bidding to acknowledge and submit to the powers that are, that decide who gets to survive and who gets to make it in this game. And this is pretty much how it goes with these oligopoly corporations, and pretty much all synchronized. They whipped Alex Jones. There's a guy called Gavin McInnes. I don't know him. He was removed just recently. The DNC, that's the Democratic National Committee, is going after WikiLeaks. So they clearly want to still prove they're actually going after them. They want them closed out, and they want all their information on Russia, this and all of that, Trump. Google have agreed to help China stop Chinese people getting outside information via VPN 2 days ago. So let's just be clear on that. And then originated by immigrants, very much of the Khazarian variety and the CIA dark state, it's worth mentioning, that was made preeminent as the search engine and was far from the first one. But all that, let's park all that for now. Essentially, an American company is collaborating with the Chinese government to help entrap and reduce the freedoms of citizens in another nation state. So let's just go through that. Of course, it's big for business, and if they don't, things could become a problem. But Google isn't in there. Baidu runs search in there. But Google is cooperating on the suppression of news to Chinese from outside environments. In other words, those seeking liberty in China are actually being suppressed by corporations. And this is what I mean. You need to stop seeing these corporations as corporations. These is government. This is government. Assange said eventually the big corporations are the government. They become the censors for government. So government doesn't have to do the censorship. The corporations do it in the name of hate speech. You're guilty of hate speech. Apparently, police can be given a new tag, and anything that is then critical of police can be termed, like a tribe, a hate speech of cop. So, I mean, all of these crank laws that they're creating, and these hate speech doctrine that politicians will echo and all of that, this is hate speech. This is all designed to get you to comply in language and in mind. This is an acceleration, gentlemen and ladies. This week saw real coconuts drop from that palm, proving to you that they were getting loaded up heavy. The acceleration and the event that you've seen these things plop to the ground, these outcomes, this breakout. And some will go, but it's Alex Jones, he's a ranter and a raver, and he's selling his testosterone drops in water to, man you up again against all the fluoride in the water that's feminizing all the men and, etc., etc. That's all just spooky, weird stuff. It's okay to lose one spooky, weird guy on the fringe. And they private corporations? No, they're not. officially they masquerade as private corporations that are listed on the stock market. They meet and are told and instructed on key points by a dark state committee that includes Henry Kissinger and a number of others. Go Google it, the Atlantic Committee with Henry Kissinger, and you will know that they have conducted experiments on news to affect people's mindsets. This is mass crowd control media influence. This Facebook is news. This is the new news media, keeping you addicted to your device and listening to and having streamed specific AI testing based newsfeed to affect mentality and that which you see, and now they're taking people down. And the case will always be they'll come for the loudest, most obstructive, and the fact that they want to undermine someone's message means he's probably onto something. Forget the delivery, the lunatic ranting and all of that. There's probably truth in there. If he's just a ranting loon channel, people don't care. WWF is a bunch of ranting loons, bloody big drugged up ranting loons, beating their chests and making all sorts of fake threats. Nobody's shutting them down. There's no consequential facts that undermines government. That's why. So what's wrong with a suited ranting loon, if that's what you think he is, making allegations? Hate speech. Hate speech is control over your thought. The great global communism is coming. Control over your language, control over what you're allowed to say. The squeezing of an authoritarian state is reaching epidemics. It's quite interesting to see all of these things dropping. I was passed on how Israel, now that they've been ceded Jerusalem as their capital and their city, will begin work on restoring Solomon's temple. In the biblical Bible, they said, and I'm going to get a little bit eccentric on you here, but just worth a note of it. Go read it for yourself. The coming, the coming of that Antichrist and the great showdown, and I don't know the biblical phraseology, I don't have the article to hand, comes with when they start to turn the soil for the re-establishment of the Temple of Solomon. And Trump, of course, gave Jerusalem to them, and they're getting digging straight away. So there is a sign of times, a sense of quickening. I then was in the markets, I mean, lira capitulation with Erdogan and his mischief, but talking with Russia, attack on the ruble, so the dollar hegemony, major dollar strength. We've called it for 3-4 months. It happened. We got into another holding structure. We said it's going to spill to the downside against the euro. So I'm talking about a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder that was tightening range. That's totally spilled. It's a clear sign of dollar assertance, and we are seeing the emergings getting caned from the rand, particularly the lira. We've traded it. We're taking profit from it. The euro, we've traded it. We're taking profit from it. But these are extreme FX moves in an environment where supposedly there's a Fed that's going to be increasing interest rates cycle, when other economies are actually in trouble, like the Eurozone with the Italian situation that I've referred to again. So here you have all these shoes dropping in the last week. 2 days ago, Google agreeing to suppress citizens in another nation state to support a communistic nation. Are you telling me these people are free speech orientated? And do you think their hate speech doctrine is anything else but to control what you're allowed to say while supposedly dressing it up as good guys? Don't do hate speech. Oh, come on. I just want to say that this has been a week where the ratchet has been tightened in terms of your technological, oligarchical, corporatocracy communism that is being delivered. And you will be restrained through corporations that you'll be forced to deal with because they own the market. They own the market. They own the market in news decimation. YouTube is the third biggest search engine after Google. It's probably the second by now. I haven't checked I've done my fact checker this morning. So it's regardless what you think of the individuals, it's a dire turn of events, and where they're taking us is not a good place. And we've had recently, over the last months or so, which is not specific to this last week that has passed, Ecuador slowly suggesting that they're going to have to walk away from giving asylum to Julian. We cannot give him endless asylum. You're talking about someone who has been imprisoned in one geographical localized place without sunlight for the better part of I don't know how many years. 6, 7, 8. I can't even check. On the basis of burst condom rape claims that have largely been debunked and thrown out, and now he's been held in a prison, and we're spending millions. The British police standing outside there, guarding him in his jail. That's the Ecuadorian, and the Ecuadorians are now being squeezed on business by America. That they will need to walk away from their position on Assange. America wants Assange bad. Bad, bad, bad. Their dark state doesn't like the fact that they were exposed and all their secrets were hidden. They do not like that Snowden data got out there. They do not like that any of the information got out there. You are not to hear about their plans for you. You are just to see lots of random events, like a whole bunch of media companies taking a guy down that's talking about false flag attacks that often occur. Go check your history and your Freedom Information Acts. I'm afraid it's not a positive message. Those that are clinging to the notion that Trump's going to roll this all back for you and it's all about a change and it's coming and there's indictments out there and all of this. Let me tell you who runs the state. It sure ain't the president, and it sure ain't Zuckerberg running his Facebook. When it comes to the big issues, the dark state handles affairs, and it's old, experienced, psychopathic people that have given orders for assassinations. That is Henry Kissinger. One of the most vile things I heard him say is it's a disgusting state of affairs that a president can no longer give. It's an act of insanity and national humiliation to have a law prohibiting the president from ordering assassination. Henry Kissinger. It's an act of insanity and national humiliation to have a law prohibiting the president from ordering assassination. Presidents should be allowed to have people capped anytime and any place they want at their own judgment. Even if in decades later we realize that we had a whole bunch of vested interest. These people, Kissinger ordered the death of Chilean general. And even go watch Hitchens in the trial of Henry Kissinger for various crimes and leading mass crimes. But he was specifically involved in giving assassination orders. This guy loves playing God. This guy wants anybody who's a problem to be whacked. This is your mafia. Extraction, cabal. Your government is the mafia. The Chicago mafia that existed just got promoted into the dark state. And they do hits of awkward people. And they extract taxation as the new racketeering money. And what do they spend that money on? They build huge debt bombs for your future generations, and they spend that money on a new space army. Yeah, space army. Let's do that thing. Separate budget. We're not able to steal money fast enough. When we drop 3 trillion down the back of the couch at the Pentagon, we need a new bottomless pit that can suddenly appear, that can justify us losing 20 or 30 trillion in a week. Space base. Yeah, we build a space base, but that looks like CGI 3D little model that you've had a child build. No. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. This is a space base. It costs trillions. We are landing there. In fact, we have Russian and everybody astronauts. These guys are, it's unbelievable the realm that we're living under now. The censorship, the technology platforms of the social media and news decimation, the grip around our throats is absolutely psychotic, and it is tightening. There is a quickening. You are going to be completely contained in terms of what you can hear and watch in due course. And even soon cometh the day, people like Joe Rogan are already softening their message on things that are a little bit awkward and sensitive. It's kind of like, oh, I'm mellowing with age. You'll soon see the market sniper after someone's tapped me on the shoulder. Oh, guys, really, maybe it's just for the good. Sometimes we like to fight a lot amongst each other, and it helps to, have a neutralizing higher force that steps in. No, they've got to me when that day comes. I'll rather not broadcast. Anyway, state of the nation. I've warned of a summer of discontent. The markets are getting sketchy on the currency side, very, very sketchy. This excessive dollar dominance is pointing to something that is lurking under the waters. Emerging markets are going to get squeezed. They have dollar-based debt. They have to make dollar-based payments. If you're Turkey and you were 4.5 to the dollar 2-3 weeks ago, not even a month ago, and today you are 6.5, guess what? Your payments just went up 40%. How do you like your house payments, car payments, and everything you have to pay because you're a debt-based nation to go up by 40%? Do you think that ends well? No, it doesn't. This is a squeeze, and there was some Trump news on that with regards to tariffs and everything, the protectionism. He's here to bring the crash reset down. They love to bring it down on Republicans, on conservatives. They want to bring it down on conservative white males like they did 2008 on Bush. It won't be on the communist lefties that they'll do it, although they're all part of the same puppet socket little fight. There's blue hand here and red hand there. Don't be fooled. It's tentacles of the same octopus. Presidents are not elected, they're selected. On that cheerful note, be safe out there and recognize it's all just a game. Extract every moment you can. Train your kids in critical thinking. Prepare for a reset. It's coming.